My family thought they had pulled off the perfect betrayal. They uninvited me from Christmas, packed up the family home, and listed it on the market behind my back, all to split a massive payday without me. I was completely heartbroken, sitting alone on Christmas Eve while they celebrated in a luxury rental. But their smirks completely vanished when their high-end realtor turned absolutely pale during the open house. He looked at the legal paperwork, looked at my family, and asked, "Who authorized this listing?" That's when they remembered the golden rule of real estate. You can't sell a house if your name isn't on the paperwork. Before we dive into how I completely ruined their multi-million-dollar scheme, follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. The trap was set, and they walked right into it. My name is Chloe Vance, and I am 26 years old. For as long as I can remember, I've been the ghost at my own family's dinner table. My mother, my older sister, and my younger brother shared an unspoken bond built on flashy lifestyles and reckless spending, a bond that completely excluded me because I preferred a quiet life of hard work. But their carefully constructed wall of secrets came crashing down on a Tuesday evening in December. My phone buzzed with a notification that changed everything. My sister had accidentally added me to a new group chat. It was immediately obvious that she had meant to add her real estate agent, whose name also started with a C. Before she realized her mistake, I opened the app. There were 47 unread messages, and as I scrolled through them, my heart sank into my stomach. They were planning a lavish Christmas celebration completely without me. My mother had typed, "Make sure she doesn't find out. She will just ruin the mood with her budgeting talk." My brother had instantly replied, "Just tell her the wrong date like we did last year. Tell her we are celebrating on the 27th, and by then, it will all be over." I sat in the dim light of my apartment, staring at the screen in absolute disbelief. The people who were supposed to love me were actively plotting to lock me out of the holidays. But as I kept reading, the betrayal became infinitely worse than a missed dinner. The messages kept coming, and the true motive behind my exclusion began to unravel right before my eyes. They weren't just trying to hide a festive holiday dinner from me. They were using the quiet distraction of the Christmas season to pull off a massive, covert financial heist. My grandfather had passed away the previous summer, leaving behind our sprawling family estate, a beautiful, historic piece of property that my mother and siblings had eyed like vultures for years. As I scrolled through the screenshots, I saw downloaded PDF attachments and frantic message threads connecting my family to a luxury real estate broker. They had quietly staged the house, taken professional marketing photographs, and were actively coordinating with an ultra-wealthy cash buyer who wanted to close the deal before the new year. The plan laid out in the chat was chillingly simple: finalize the multi-million-dollar sale, split the massive payday entirely 3 ways, and vanish before I ever realized what happened. My brother had even sent a mocking text that read, "Chloe is too soft and clueless to notice anything until the money is already sitting in our bank accounts anyway." They openly joked about my intelligence, completely convinced that my quiet nature made me an easy target to rob. They genuinely believed they could erase my existence, sell the very roof over their heads, and leave me with absolutely nothing. Little did they know, their arrogance had blinded them to a massive legal reality. To understand exactly how big of a mistake they were making, you have to understand the history of that house. My grandfather was a brilliant, self-made man who knew his family incredibly well. He watched for decades as my mother and siblings blew through inheritances, maxed out credit cards, and sank into massive debts trying to fund failed business ventures. He knew that if he left the family estate to them, they would liquidate it within a week and end up completely broke. That is why, on his deathbed, he made a secret arrangement. He called me into his hospital room, looked me in the eyes, and told me I was the only stable force in this family. Right there, with his estate attorney present, he quietly signed the legal property deed over to me entirely, making me the sole owner. To keep the peace while he was alive, he granted my mother and siblings a lifetime tenancy agreement, meaning they could live there comfortably, but they had absolutely no right to alter or sell the property. Because I never flaunted my ownership and let them live there without ever asking for a single dime of rent, their greed made them completely forgetful. They chose to ignore the legal reality of our situation, assuming the house would just default to my mother through probate court. They never bothered to check the county records, and they completely forgot whose name was actually stamped on the legal deed. They thought they were playing a high-stakes game of chess, but they didn't even realize I owned the board. Instead of blowing up in anger or confronting them immediately, I took a deep breath and decided to play the long game. I sat at my desk for the next 2 hours, methodically downloading and securely backing up every single message, photo, and legal contract draft sent in that accidental group chat. I knew that if this went to court, these screenshots would be my absolute armor. My hands were shaking, but my mind had never been clearer. Once I had everything saved in multiple secure cloud folders, it was time to let them know the game had officially changed. I didn't write a long, emotional paragraph crying about how much they hurt me. Instead, I calmly typed a single chilling text message back into the group chat. Merry Christmas. Your realtor will explain the rest. The second the message marked as read, I hit the button to permanently leave the group chat and blocked all of their personal numbers for the night. I refused to give them the satisfaction of arguing or screaming at me over the phone. Almost instantly, my secondary work phone, the one number they rarely used, began blowing up with frantic, unread calls and notifications. I could practically feel the pure panic radiating through the screen as my mother and siblings realized the monumental mistake they had made by letting me see that chat. They were realizing that the quiet, soft Chloe they always dismissed was no longer staying silent. I turned the phone face down, poured myself a cup of tea, and went to bed. The trap was set, and all I had to do now was wait for the sun to rise on Christmas Eve. The next morning on Christmas Eve, my family decided to proceed with their exclusive, high-stakes VIP open house anyway. They mistakenly believed my text was just an empty threat, assuming they could simply push the final sale through probate court later and fix any paperwork issues with enough cash. They had no idea I was already 10 steps ahead of them. I dressed impeccably in a sharp, tailored coat, called my real estate attorney, and drove straight over to my grandfather's estate. When I arrived, the circular driveway was packed with luxury vehicles. I walked through the front doors and found my mother and siblings pouring expensive champagne for wealthy prospective buyers in the beautifully staged living room. The second my sister saw me, the glass nearly slipped from her hand. My mother stepped forward, her face twisted into a fake, tight smile as she whispered, "Chloe, what on earth are you doing here? This is a private business function." Before she could utter another word, my attorney stepped to the front. He bypassed my sputtering family entirely and walked straight up to the high-end listing agent who was running the event. With absolute clinical precision, my attorney served the realtor with a formal, immediate cease and desist order. The document legally froze the sale, locked down the listing database, and threatened the entire brokerage with massive fraud charges for listing a property without the true owner's signature. The realtor's face went completely flush. He stared at the paperwork, looked at my pale, trembling family, and demanded to know who authorized this illegal listing. The room went dead silent as the wealthy buyers began whispering. The prospective cash buyers didn't wait around to watch the drama unfold. They hurried out of the front doors in sheer embarrassment, completely ruining my family's carefully manufactured reputation in the local real estate market. The high-end listing agent was absolutely furious. He packed up his marketing materials and openly threatened to sue my mother and siblings for breach of contract, fraud, and misrepresentation, pointing out that they had signed legal declarations explicitly claiming they had the full authority to sell the estate. Once the house cleared out and the front doors clicked shut, the fake smiles vanished completely. My sister began screaming hysterically, while my brother paced the hardwood floor, demanding to know how I could do something so incredibly cruel to my own flesh and blood. My mother approached me, her voice dripping with synthetic desperation as she tried to convince me that they were planning to surprise me with my share of the money all along. I didn't waste a single breath arguing with their transparent lies. Instead, I calmly delivered my final ultimatum. I looked my mother and siblings dead in the eyes and revealed that because they had attempted to illegally liquidate my property and cut me out of my own life, I was officially terminating their lifetime tenancy agreement effective immediately. Their legal right to live under this roof was completely forfeited the moment they tried to steal it from me. I pulled out a fresh set of legal eviction notices and slid them across the marble kitchen island. They had exactly 30 days to pack up their reckless lifestyles, vacate my house, and figure out how to survive on their own. 3 months later, I sold the grandfathered estate entirely on my own terms, using the millions in cash to invest in a beautiful coastal property and secure my financial future permanently. I completely cut ties with my toxic family, refusing to let their manipulation drain my energy ever again. With their illegal listing exposed and their credit shattered, my siblings were forced into cheap, cramped rentals, finally facing the crushing weight of the heavy debts they had accumulated over the years. Standing up to them didn't just protect my inheritance. It gave me the profound strength to realize exactly what I am capable of when pushed into a corner. What would you have done if you accidentally found that secret family group chat? Would you have evicted them immediately to teach them a lesson, or would you have given them one final chance to fix their mistakes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And meanwhile, I'm leaving on the final screen 2 other incredible stories that are channel favorites, and they will definitely surprise you. Thank you so much for watching until the very end.